You know, professional guitar players have certain tells when they play guitar that truly indicate that they are indeed professional. And I'm grateful to say that for the last 20 years, I've been fortunate enough to surround myself with professional guitar players and really get to absorb and observe what they do so that I can hopefully imitate it myself and hang along with them. And I'm about to share with you 3 things in particular that I believe truly separate professional players from non-professional players. And by the way, be sure to stick around to the very end of the lesson because I've got a free gift for you and your guitar that you're both gonna love. Now, before I get into these 3 particulars and what makes a professional guitar player, I do want to say that this is not a dig on non-professional players. Obviously, if you got a love for guitar and you got the music in you, it doesn't matter what capacity that you get to use it, whether it's at home or doing like whatever capacity you're able to do it in, it doesn't have to be this big glorious thing. If you got the music in you, let it out. That being said, there's a whole lot that we can learn from professional players. And of course, these same players happen to be ones that inspire us, ones that make us want to pick up guitar and get better at it, right? So there's always something we can learn and we can gain from observing professional players that can automatically upgrade the way that we play, even if we don't aspire to be professional on that same level. So the first of these 3 things that really make a professional guitar player is that they are melody focused. This means that melody is everything, especially when we're talking about improvisation, playing solos, even if it's jamming over a backing track, it's always thinking in terms of melody. So you're not thinking in terms of scales really. The scale is the vehicle to get you there as far as the melody is concerned, but you're thinking about the melody. It's like you're in the creative process rather than the mechanical process. So if you think of a short, sweet, simple melody, whatever scale it takes to get you there, that's kind of like secondary, but what comes first is the actual melody because that's the creative part of you, right? So when you think in terms of melody, you're not necessarily thinking in terms of, I know all the scales to play over, whatever kind of track or whatever. It's like you're not being scale forward in your thinking. That's important in the beginning just to understand, the different scale patterns, the different tonalities of them, and find out which ones actually speak to you the most musically and you can get the most use out of, right? And that's going to help inspire you when it comes to coming up with melodies. But melodies don't have to be complicated or they don't require a multitude of scales in order to even have a starting point with melody. You can have the most simplest melody and still make it sound very professional, right? As long as it's something that you can hear in your head and you learn how to bring it out on guitar. And I know that may seem like a tall order if you've never done that before, like coming up with a melody and then just playing it, right? It's important to start really, really simple, just a handful of notes, right? And depending on what you're playing over. So like in the beginning of the video, I was playing over a ballad style backing track that was an E flat major. So my guitar is actually tuned down a half step, right? So my low E is actually an E flat. So every string is tuned down a half step. So, but what I'm gonna demonstrate to you, and it's important, when it comes to these particular things that I'm gonna show you, it's more about the way things are played, and it's not necessarily about like, play this exact thing. Because again, a professional player is more about, like especially with this first thing, it's about the creativity, right? So this is meant to just kind of get the gears turning in your own mind and help you find ways that you can bring this stuff out even with just a handful of notes. So what I was focusing on when I was playing over that ballad style backing track was just E flat major pentatonic, right? And what I was really doing was just these kind of 4-note boxes. But I was connecting them, right? So it was across 3 octaves, but if you're already familiar with the pentatonic hot boxes, then this will be pretty easy to pick up. And the reason I give myself a limited amount of notes to work with is because it's to really prove the point that it doesn't take a whole lot to sound professional. And especially when it comes to coming up with melody and like the whole process of doing that, having a handful of notes will take a lot of the pressure off of you and make it much easier to get kick-started with it. So let's say, for example, you come up with something like if you're used to hearing the tonality that you're playing in, right? This happy sounding pentatonic. So you're focused on that. That's the tonality that your mind is focused on. So when you come up with a melody, you're most likely not going to come up with like, harmonic minor or something that's little more tense or exotic sounding, right? You're gonna be focused pretty major, right? And I'm not a good singer, right? This is something that I'm being very vulnerable and a little shameless about, because I encourage you to do the same, is to just kind of like sing an idea. Just make something up. You don't have to be a good singer to do it. And if it's just a handful of notes, you know, you can do something like, that's it, right? Simple. So let's see how I can find that on with these notes. Let's see. Okay, so I was able to find the notes because obviously I've been doing this for a while, but even if you don't find the exact notes, it's the process has started, right? Like you're starting to get some, even you did something like that, it's not exactly what I sang, but I just it gave me something to hold on to and just try out. And that's what I want you to do in the beginning. Don't worry so much about being pitch perfect with, you know, matching the notes in your head with being able to play them on guitar. That's gonna come with time, I promise you. But it's important in the beginning to just give yourself like permission to be okay with fumbling through it at first. Because as long as you have something to hold on to, then that's something that you wouldn't have otherwise had. So if you just sort of like sing out a random idea and just try to find it, even if the notes aren't correct, you have like the budding like new idea that you otherwise would not have had. And I'm telling you, as you spend more time doing that, you're gonna get more precise with it. You're gonna be able to actually hear a melody and play it in your head. And again, start really, really simple with just a couple of notes. And then over time, as you get more accustomed to it, you'll be able to kind of like graduate into having more notes at your disposal. Next thing you know, you're gonna be singing like complicated lines, like 16th note runs and stuff in your head, and you'll just know exactly where to play it. But for now, we're just focused on simple melody, right? We're thinking ballad, we're thinking major pentatonic. So that's it, right? Let's think of another melody, like that backing track kind of reminds me of like a 90s, like almost like Smashing Pumpkins style ballad, right? So if I were to think of like something Billy Corgan would sing, you know, like like just like something like that, right? Let's try that. Okay, let's see if I can find that. Let's see. Okay, found it, and it's right there, you know, in that major pentatonic, right? Like again, that's the range that I'm working with here, and then I know an octave up, it's right here. That's cool. I'm gonna throw on the backing track and just try that out and actually see if it sticks. I'd say that worked, you know, and this is something that's gonna be a trial and error process if you're new to the whole thing, right? So that's where the fun is though. You start to realize like, wow, I didn't realize I was actually musical, right? Even though we're guitar players sometimes, we don't realize how musical we truly are, but the truth is there is an inner musician in there. It's the whole reason you're watching this video, learning guitar in the first place. It's because that inner musician exists. It's there. You cannot tell me it doesn't exist, right? If you're here. So you have to just understand that even your love of music, that connection to music, feeds that inner musician. So you can come up with a very simple melody, and even if it seems clunky and silly at first, as this process, you know, as you keep putting in the work to develop this process, work it out, you don't even have to sing it out loud. You'll be able to sing it in your head and you can figure it out, so that way you don't have to so much worry about maybe judgment from your spouse or anybody else. You know, like I said, I'm a little shameless, so I don't care. But it's really like I'm you know, comfortable enough with myself to know that I'm a terrible singer, but I won't let that stop me from coming up with musical ideas, because that's the most important thing if we're trying to come up with melody. And the second thing that a professional guitar player tends to do is utilize something we like to call guitar linguistics. These are basically the subtle techniques on guitar that give it a vocal quality, you know, and especially if we're talking about melody, if we're being very melody focused, we're playing over a ballad, you know, so the techniques for guitar linguistics are like slides, bends, vibratos, stuff like that. Subtle things that make all the difference as opposed to just statically playing notes. And the other side of it, when it comes to guitar linguistics, isn't just the use of those techniques for the sake of it, it's the deliberation, right? The actual on purpose, you're using them on purpose. So if, let's take for example, that melody I came up with before, that like, So a great thing with that is like sliding to start just felt right to me, as opposed to just, right? If I were to play it real static like that, it takes a lot of the life out of it. But if I were to do simple, subtle things like slide, and then, like hammer on, pull off, do something like that, and then vibrato too, especially if we're going for a very vocal singing kind of thing. And I do want to put a disclaimer out there, I'm not trying to say that professionals only play slow ballad type stuff, right? I love the fast playing too, right? And a professional knows the time and place for either type of technique to pull out, right? It's all about being tasteful, even with the flashy stuff. So I love and I advocate for, learning how to really push the boundaries of your playing and play all the fun, fast stuff. I mean, I spent the better part of my teens and 20s, learning like how to play, like my favorite guitar players like Paul Gilbert and Vinnie Moore and, Malmsteen and all those guys, right? Like I went through that same phase and I don't regret a minute of it because it's really helped me learn how to use those, especially if it calls for it. Whenever I encounter that as a professional, whether it's on a session or on a gig, sometimes I'll encounter an artist that's like, man, can you do something kind of shreddy? And I want to be able to say, yeah, I can do that, as opposed to being like, well, I could play a ballad, like you got to be able to read the room and you got to be able to do what's asked of you, right? But for this example, just to get you started, it's really all these little things, because all the professionals, I mean all of them, that I've had the pleasure of developing relationships with, or even just getting to talk to, they value more the little things in other guitar players, right, than how fast they play. Because a guitar player can play like wicked, blinding fast, and then if they move to a vibrato and it's just like really nervous and manic and doesn't really fit the same level of control that they had over all those other techniques, the whole thing just kind of falls flat on its face. But a guitar player that can vibrato really, really well and may not be able to, shred or sweep arpeggios or whatever, is still considered a valuable guitar player to a professional. And I'm just telling you that based on experience, and I truly feel the same way. So these guitar linguistics are important, but it also is in the, being deliberate when you do them. So if I were to do something like that, right? That's just off the cuff, little slides. And just focusing on like not playing them just like where it's like you're so matter of fact with the notes. It's just not very inspiring. It sounds way more vocal. And it also indicates that you have a lot more control over your playing when you're focused on those little things. So if you were to take a simple 4-note pentatonic box like this E flat major thing I'm doing, and I'm just like, okay, slides, bends, vibratos, all those little things, I'm telling you, like that screams pro to other professional players. It's like game recognizes game. So if you're able to sit there and like just really exercise those techniques and let your guitar truly speak, imagine like what that'll do to your melodies. You're coming up with great melodies and then you apply those guitar linguistics. They're just gonna sound that much more professional and that much more musical. Oh, and hey, real quick, if you're getting value out of this lesson, please do me a favor, hit that like button and consider subscribing to our YouTube channel. It really helps us out and it lets us know that you want to see more lessons just like this one, which we'd be more than happy to give you. So thanks in advance, and let's get right back to business. And finally, the third thing that separates professional guitar players from all the rest are the use of dynamics. Similar to guitar linguistics in that these are subtle techniques, but guitar linguistics like slides, bends, vibrato and stuff really are focused on your fretting hand, but dynamics really focus on the picking hand. And this kind of completes the ensemble for just overall in control playing, professional playing. So with dynamics, I'm talking about controlling your attack and your volume and even your overall tone based on how hard or how soft you pick. And I'm gonna say something mildly controversial here, but tone is indeed in the hands. I am 100% a firm believer in that. I have seen too many times in my life guitar players playing the same exact rig, right? Just like imagine the same amp, same pedals, same guitar, everything, and just this revolving door of guitar players all playing the same rig without changing a thing and sounding completely different. That difference was in their hands. Now, I don't necessarily know how I feel about tone being in the fretting hand. I mean, I do think there's something to that, but I believe most of it really comes from the picking hand. Let me show you an example, okay? So with the picking hand, how you control your dynamics, right? Your attack, if let's say you play really soft, you're actually gonna have a different tone than if you played really hard. Check this out. So if I were to just do something like this, playing this right here. Just that, right? I'm gonna play it real soft and then I'm gonna gradually increase intensity. And I wanna see if you can hear a difference in the tone, okay? Let's start soft, here we go. Okay, I didn't change a thing, right? My volume and tone, everything's wide open. I didn't hit a pedal. I didn't change the settings on my amp. I mean, they're all the way over there anyway, right? All I did was change my attack. That's all I did. So let's do a little play-by-play, right? When I started out playing soft, it sounded, you know, a little throaty, really warm, obviously quieter, right? But then as I started to increase intensity, you can almost hear an increase in gain. Like there's a little more distortion, a little more breakup based on how I'm hitting the string, right? Getting a little brighter too. And then when I hit it real hard, I mean, unless I'm like in the throes of like, you know, playing live, I normally don't play that hard usually, but you can totally hear a difference between this and this. Now, the fundamental of, you know, the sound is similar, but you do have to take note of the changes in not just volume, right? But also in breakup and distortion and in a little bit in EQ. It gets brighter as you pick it harder and it softens up and gets warmer as you pick softer. That is a change in tone. So what I recommend you do when you're starting out, you know, exploring your dynamics in your picking hand is to do a call and response type thing, where let's say you play one melody at your call melody, you play it soft, and then your response melody, you play it a little harder, right? You don't need to go to extremes, but make it to where there's a clear difference in dynamic between the call and response. That'll kind of help you compartmentalize and just think, you know, just tell yourself, okay, I'm gonna play soft here, and then the next thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna play a little bit harder. So if I did a soft melody like this, like, soft little, you know, picking real soft, nice and warm. And I want to do a response melody that's a little bit harder. Ooh, so difference in tone there, right? You know, almost like you can hear like it's like Marco Polo, right, with yourself, right? And when you're exploring these different dynamics, and you can keep it up, right? You can do another like. Nice and simple, and then like as your response. Just do that and really take mental inventory of the difference in sound from when you play hard and when you play soft. And then over time, you're gonna have more control over that to where if you wanna, let's say, play a full-on melody you have the melody in your head and you're using guitar linguistics and picking dynamics, right? This is kind of like a timeline in terms of like applying these. You start by thinking in terms of melody. You apply the guitar linguistics, then you apply the picking dynamics, and then you have this recipe for professional sounding guitar playing. So I'll throw the backing track on again just for a few seconds and just play through something that uses all three, and we'll see how it sounds. Okay, so I was focused on melody first, like just doing the little, right? Just doing the call and response thing with the dynamics, doing little slides, just really trying to coax some just sweet sounds out of a really just a handful of notes spanning over 3 octaves, you know? And of course, when you use those pentatonic hotboxes, which like I said, we have plenty of videos covering that stuff for both major and minor pentatonic, and you can just hear the like how things change even if I play the same notes in different octaves. So that obviously helps too. But it really fundamentally comes down to just those handful of notes, creating melodies, using guitar linguistics to give it a more vocal sound, and using dynamics to really like put the icing on the cake and to really make this full-on recipe for professional improvising, right? And all you gotta do is start simple and just work your way up from there. That's all you gotta do. When you do that, you're gonna have the foundation of all the priorities that you need to have that professional guitarist mindset. And imagine, as you start to build your technique and your repertoire and your whole library of scales and licks and all that stuff, imagine how you're gonna be able to execute those having that professional mindset to begin with, right? Still focusing on melody, even when it comes to the fast stuff, right? When you're playing fast, you don't have to play fast all the time, right? You can just bust it out to show them what's up, right? But still have melody be the most important thing, right? Kind of the overall theme or motif of what you're doing. And then you have your guitar linguistics and your picking hand dynamics to just really make the whole thing sound like you're completely in control of your guitar playing. And now you know these 3 simple but powerful professional guitar playing tactics. And today we focused on one key, a major key specifically, but imagine being able to explore all the keys, whether it's major or minor, all across the fretboard. I think you're in the perfect position to explore that after what we just gone over. And what you need to have the ability to start playing over all these keys all over the fretboard happens to involve that free gift that I owe you. And here it is right here. It's a free lesson on how to instantly solo in any musical key, even the weird ones like B flat, F, you name it. If it's a key, you'll be able to play it. Major or minor, doesn't matter. This lesson's gonna get you there. Just be sure to click here to claim your free copy or check the link in the description box. I'm really excited to see where your guitar playing goes after taking this lesson, because you don't have to actually aspire to be a professional working musician in order to play like one.